Hello, my name is Kevin, and today I will be presenting a refutation speech on the claim that minors' use of social media negatively affects their overall health and well-being. My opponent's secondary claims were that minors' use of social media leads to cyberbullying, which negatively affects their well-being. Secondly, that minors' use of social media results in a lack of activity or physical exercise. And finally, that minors' use of social media results in a loss of social and communication skills. Now, in response to the first secondary claim that the use of social media leads to cyberbullying, the advocate used a quote from the iSafe Foundation that cyberbullying increases the risk of suicide in minors. However, neither on the site or anywhere else on the internet, I couldn't find any concrete statistics that support this. All I could find was that merely the statement that cyberbullying leads to an increase in suicidal tendencies. Without a concrete statistic that shows the official increase, this means that this increase can range from anywhere from a huge increase in suicidal tendencies to a very small and even insignificant increase. This means that this information cannot be relied upon to support the argument. Moving on, the advocate claimed that the ubiquitous nature of social media makes it very difficult for an individual to shield themselves from the effects of cyberbullying. However, according to sites such as commonsensemedia.org, at least 25% of minors do not possess an active social media account, which means that while 75% do, it is still possible to completely shut oneself from social media. This counterclaim that I've made is, however, addressed by a quote that the advocate cites but does not actually present in their speech. This omission obviously undermines the effectiveness of their claim. Moving on, the advocate stated that cyberbullying has a significant impact on subjective health. However, this is neither backed by any actual statistics that show what this drop in subjective health is, and neither is subjective health actually defined. Without defining what subjective health is, we cannot get a grasp on how significant this is, why this is an issue. And so, moving on to their next secondary claim, the advocate cited that minors use social media for an average at least an hour a day, and this pulls away time that they could be spending with physical activity. This claim, however, creates a bifurcation. By stating that social media takes away time from physical activity, this is assuming that a minor can only be spending time on one or the other. The minor can easily be spending time on social media in addition to physical activity. They can be out playing and then come back in to check Facebook or whatever. They don't have to be doing one or the other. While the evidence that they use states that spending time on social media must necessarily pull time from other activities, once again, a child does not have to be spending all their time on one activity or the other. They can have plenty of free time in a day to be spending on social media. Continuing on, the advocate claimed that social media users are less likely to join a sports team. While this may very well be true, it is not supported by any concrete statistics. The source cited simply states in a single sentence that social media users are less likely to join a sports team, and that's it. There's no no indication of a study to back it up, no statistics, nothing. Additionally, this does not show why, the advocate did not show why this is significant in any way. While, of course, you would inherently spend more time exercising on a sports team, this does not mean that you have to join a sports team to exercise. You can easily be playing basketball or baseball off of a basketball or baseball team. You don't have to be on the team to exercise. For her last point on this secondary claim, the advocate uses a credible source to support this secondary claim that use of social media pulls time from physical activity, but other credible sources actually contradict this evidence. According to Anthony Komaroff of Harvard Health Publications, social media can actually positively affect physical health. While Komaroff acknowledges that social media can negatively affect physical health, it is like studies have shown that it is possible to have an opposite effect and positively affect physical health. It all depends on the kinds of people online that you surround yourself with. If these people are happy, you in turn will tend to have a boost in your own happiness. And conversely, if they are sad, you will also feel sad. So this can work with physical activity as well. Onto the last secondary claim that social media diminishes in-person communication skills. This has been shown to be the case with an observable fact where minors will pull out their phone to avoid conversation. However, in the very same article that the advocate cites, Yalda Rules claims that social media is not necessarily negatively affecting communication skills. And in conclusion, these are the various holes in reasoning and evidence in this advocate's claim of fact. Thank you.
Time goes quick, doesn't it? Yeah. I thought you had a good start. You labeled the main claim and the secondary issues pretty well. You're following the organizational structure. That's good. I do think you need to get through that first point on cyberbullying a little bit more quickly. There's some good analysis that you have here, but you need to kind of get to the point, and that is that the evidence on increased cyberbullying leading to suicides is not documented. It's not proved. It's just an assertion that appears in this article, and there's no backup on it. So I think that's a reasonable press there. The idea that you can't, that they have to have these kinds of accounts, that there's always going to be bullying. Well, if it's hard to bully somebody who's not present to be bullied, and you can call names all you want online, but if 25% of the kids don't see their names being called out, how are they going to feel like they're bullied? And I don't know, once upon a time there were rules or guidelines about some of these social media on those sites. I don't know if they still have those sorts of things, but I'm sorry, I'm dating myself. I remember when it was a big deal and MySpace came up, and it was like they would not allow anybody who was under the age of like 14 to have an account or something like that. I don't know if they have those kinds of rules on contemporary social media sites, but that might be some place that you could go to maybe make that argument even more effectively. Most of the stuff on the first point is all good presses on the issues. I think you could use a little bit of evidence on your own, but the one thing about the 25%, I thought that was the strongest piece of information that you had there. On the second point, I think your analysis is good, that it's a bifurcation argument. Your reasoning would be stronger if you could show, for instance, that they do have significant amounts of time to do other kinds of activities, that they don't have to choose just between these two things, that they are, in fact, compatible. It seemed to me like there was a date information in the advocate's original claim about how much time kids spend online during the week. You could do a calculation, for instance, so how much time does that leave them in the rest of the week for sleep, homework, school, all those sorts of things, and it would seem like it would be a pretty substantial amount of time, and then you could show, for instance, with an example, how somebody could easily manage that, and it doesn't create the issue that the advocate says. The sports team press is, I think, reasonable. Again, the argument that there's no documented harm that occurs from that, I think, is a good press also. Seems like you've done a lot of good analysis here, and you've got the right kinds of presses. Some of these things, though, I think you could probably have done almost immediately after the speech, and you've had a little bit more time, so I think you could probably use a little bit of information to back those points up. And I'm running out of time, too, because we got to get to the